Peter here. Just thought I'd record from home today. It is in the evening, and I'm speaking kind of softly because the kids are asleep right now, or at least they should be. Today we're in Joshua chapter 3, and Joshua chapter 3 is a pretty amazing chapter. And I guess I say that for every single chapter that I read in the Bible, but there's some really good, solid nuggets of truth in here that we could take along with us. So let's read together in chapter 3. This is what it says. Early the next morning, Joshua and all the Israelites left Acacia Grove and arrived at the banks of the Jordan River, where they camped before crossing. 3 days later, the Israelite officers went through the camp, giving these instructions to the people. When you see the Levitical priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God, move out from your positions and follow them. Since you have never traveled this way before, they will guide you. Stay about half a mile behind them, keeping a clear distance between you and the ark. Make sure you don't come any closer. Then Joshua told the people, purify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do great wonders among you. In the morning Joshua said to the priests, lift the Ark of the Covenant and lead the people across the river. And so they started out and went ahead of the people. The Lord told Joshua, today I will begin to make you a great leader in the eyes of the Israelites. They will know that I am with you, just as I was with Moses. Give this command to the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant. When you reach the banks of the Jordan River, take a few steps into the river and stop there. So Joshua told the Israelites, come and listen to what the Lord your God says. Today you will know that the living God is among you. He will surely drive out the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites ahead of you. Look, the Ark of the Covenant, which belongs to the Lord of the whole earth, will lead you across the Jordan River. Now choose 12 men from the tribe of Israel and from each tribe. The priests will carry the Ark of the Lord of all the earth. As soon as their feet touch the water, the flow of the water will be cut off upstream. The river will stand up like a wall. So the people left their camp to cross the Jordan, and the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. It was the harvest season, and the Jordan was overflowing at its banks. But as soon as the feet of the priests who were carrying the ark touched the water at the river's edge, the water above that point began backing up a great distance away at a town called Adam, which is near Zarethan. And the water below that point flowed on to the Dead Sea until the riverbed was dry. Then all the people crossed over near the town of Jericho. Meanwhile, the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Lord's Covenant stood on dry ground in the middle of the riverbed as the people passed by. They waited there until the whole nation of Israel had crossed the Jordan on dry ground. Again, this is another great chapter in the Bible that we see about Joshua. Joshua is starting off his ministry, his calling that God has given him to take over Moses' spot. And this is no easy task. It's a scary task, because if you think about it, he's leading the people. The people weren't easy. They were a tough bunch to live with. But he followed what God had called him to do. And that's the thing. I go back to this over and over again. But if you do what God has called you to do, there is no fear or there is no challenge that can't be overcome. You can overcome them. Not you, but with God's strength behind you. If you look at this passage, one of the great things we see here is that Joshua tells the people to purify themselves. Purify themselves physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Every aspect of their body is supposed to be purified before you see God do great wonders. And that's one of those things. Sometimes in our life we may have sin and we may need to come before God to be clean. Not because, it's for God's benefit, but for our benefit. To be able to see God at work when we're not distracted with the things that are taking up our time. So in the morning they started on ahead, and Joshua was told by the Lord Jesus, or by the Lord in verse 7, today I will begin to make you a great leader in the eyes of all the Israelites. And usually people stop there. Joshua's going to be a great leader because of what he's going to do, not because of what God's going to do. But here's the thing. Verse 7 says it very clearly. How will he be made a great leader? It says half of the verse through. It says, they will know that I am with you, just as I was with Moses. You see, the things that we can do isn't based on what we can do. It's based on what God can do through us. And the question comes down for us is that how often is it that we ask God to work through us? To work through us. Sometimes we're so busy. And sometimes we think it's what I can do for God that really matters. But it's really what God can do through us that really matters. And they're about to do a crazy thing too. What's the next crazy thing? They're going to carry the Ark of the Covenant through the Jordan River. Now, it was during the season where water was high and the river was flowing. Even if it was flowing at 10 miles an hour, it's still flowing. Water, if you see floods, it could take over cars and move things. You know, if the priests slip up just a little bit, they'll fall. Now, the only way a large group of people could cross through is for the river to dry up. And that's what happened. The river dried up. An impossible thing happened. Again, it's not because of what Joshua does, but what God does in and around Joshua that makes him great. So they did what they were told. They were able to record, in verse 16, the water above that point began backing up a great distance away at a town called Adam, which is near Zarethan. Now, they didn't just say the waters back up and became a wall. No, they traced where the water went back to, and then the rest of the water just flowed. This was another moment that symbolizes, or that shows kind of the similarities or the parallels with Moses leading the people out of Egypt, and now Joshua leading the people into the promised land. In verse 17, meanwhile the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Lord's covenant stood on dry ground in the middle of the riverbed as the people passed by. They waited there until the whole nation of Israel has crossed on the Jordan on dry ground. My friends, I don't know about you, but even to stop a trickle of a stream is not possible. But God stopped a river, a raging river, and he did that for the people to experience him. But the thing I want to ask in conclusion for all of us is, how often is it that God does something so amazing in our life, something that we may have asked for, something that we've prayed for, and yet soon after we forgot what he did, and soon after we don't remember anything, and soon after we're no longer grateful, and soon after, did it even happen? Did that even take place? And we never, or I wouldn't say never, but sometimes we don't stop to take the time to remember. You know, birthdays are days for us to remember. Christmas, holidays, family birthdays, accomplishments, dates that we were able to accomplish things. As long as we remember God's grace upon us in our life, then we can continue to see him at work. We continue to purify ourselves because we know our focus needs to be off of ourselves but towards him. And so if we want to be leaders like Joshua, or even people of God, what would it look like for us to not forget, but to constantly be living and waiting to see him at work in our life? You know, if you are scared or wondering if God still works or why God seems so far away, have you ever asked yourself whether or not you allowed God to really work in your life first? And for those who are working and serving God with our whole lives, are we continuing to put him in front and center, or are we putting ourselves, sometimes interjecting ourselves in there? I know I do. But what are we really doing that is pleasing to God and shows to the people that he is with us? Something to think about today. Hope you enjoyed chapter 3. Tomorrow, we'll continue on with chapter 4. God bless. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.